The first great dawn of the morning was beaming. The bright rays shone forth, the glad spirit of the light. The rising sun over the ocean was streaming, and dispelled with his rays the dark shadow of the night. The air, oh how pure, and the morning was mild, and these waters lay hushed like a sleeping child. What cheer, cried the maid as he paced to and fro. What cheer art thou watching? Is all right below? All right, cried the voice, the hatches are tight, as the chains are binding the slaves this night. Up with the flag, then let us away. Speed the sails, 'tis a favouring wind, and long ere the brave woman will leave the coast of old Africa behind. The moonlight will follow our track over deep, as we start through the sparkling wave. For our cargo of beings are all hushed in sleep, as though they were hushed in the grave. Then up with the anchor, and let us away. We care not, we must not no longer delay. Gloomily stood the captain, with his arms upon his breast, his cold brow sternly knitted, and iron lips compressed. Are all well whipped below there? Aye, aye, the seamen said. Heave up the worthless lovers, the dying and the dead. Help, oh help, thou God of Christians, save a mother from despair. Cruel white man stole my children. O God of Christians, hear my prayer. I am young and strong and hardy. He's a sick and feeble boy. Take me, whip me, chain me, starve me. O God, in mercy, save my boy. They've killed my child. They've killed my child, the mother shrieked. Now all is over. Down the savage captain struck her, lifeless on the vessel floor. Shall outraged nature cease to feel? Shall mercy's tears no longer flow? Shall ruffians fetter cord and steel? The dungeon's gloom, the assassin's blood. Shall tongues be mute when deeds are wrought? Shall freemen lock the midnight thought? Shall mercy's bosom cease to sigh for women's shrieks in slavery? Shall honor bleed? Shall truth become? Shall pen impress and soul be done? Let every man arise to save from scourge and chain the Negro slave. Wilderson in 2010 writes, the gratuitous violence of black spurs ontological instance, the Middle Passage wiped out his or her metaphysics, his or her customs, and sources in which they are based. Jews went into Auschwitz and came out as Jews. Africans went on the ships and came out as blacks. The former is a human Holocaust, the animal later is a human and metaphysical Holocaust. The dead have that blacks among them. The black has no ontological resistance in the eyes of the white man, or more precisely in the eyes of humanity. How is it that black appears the partner of senior and junior partners of civil society, whites and colored immigrants respectively, when in point in fact is the black is not in the world? By acting like the black is present, coherent, and above all human, the black film theories are allowed to meditate, required for the privilege of participating in the political economy of academia. It is not the structural judgment that our nations must adhere to for the privilege of securing alone. Signing on the dotted line means feigning ontological capacity regardless of the fact that blackness incapacity is most pure and adulterated form. It means theorizing blackness as borrowed institutionality. Ever wonder how the ancestors survived the boat ride from Africa to America? Smells of everybody's lives jump together as they lay flanked side by side. The cesspool of blood, tears, and stool, dreaming the undreamable. Deep in the bowels of slave ship, where many make their tune, a mother's tears flowed from dried-eyed ducts for the suckling babe snatched from her breast, while hating the enemy whose seed now grew in her womb. Rattlings of shackles, never quite able to drown out the memory of sun-drenched savannas where they once roamed as kings and queens, pulverized the spirit. Were they bludgeoned in a mindless stupor? Or did they tell themselves, we must be strong, we must survive for our future sons and daughters? For survive they did, only to endure the unwritable. Bondage, false freedom, lynchings, now drugs. Ever wonder what the ancestors would believe if they knew the perilous journey their future seed must fork through the Middle Passage from their mother's cracked-out womb? Deep in the caverns of the incubator, where many make their tune. A drug baby's life is shackled to tubes, ventilators, not guaranteed to save, like mother's milk and a biblical cord. But in an alien world, now who's a slave? This is Yancey in 2011. Africans were taught to internalize negative images of themselves, to know themselves as chattel and property. This process was evident during the Middle Passage. During the voyage, Africans were subjected to typhoons and spatialization. The Middle Passage itself was part and parcel of a display practice constructed black body itself as a thing to encourage Africans to think of themselves in subhuman terms. Black bodies were situated in suffocating spaces of confinement, physically tight, economically impoverished spaces of contemporary urban black America. 250 million, many of whom were pregnant, were forced in a space of 16 by 18 feet. Feminist and cultural theorist Bell Hooks writes, the woman who survived the initial stages of pregnancy gave birth aboard a ship with their bodies exposed to either the scorching sun or the freezing cold. The number of black women who died during childbirth or the number of stillborn children will never be known. Black women and children aboard slave ships were ridiculed, mocked, and treated contemptuously by the slaver crews. Often enslaved could brutalize children watch the anguish of their mothers. An African slave trader told us the story of 108 boys and girls who were packed into a small hole. I returned on board to aid in stowing the slave ship, 108 boys and girls, the eldest of whom did not exceed 15 years old. As I crawled between decks, I confess I could not imagine how this little army is to be packed or draw breath in the hold but 22 inches high. Imagine crossing the ocean aboard a small ship made to hold 200 people packed with 1,000 weeping, crying men, women, and children. Each African was forced to fit in a space no more than 55.9 centimeters, 22 inches high, roughly the height of a single gym locker, and 61 centimeters wide, 20 inches in arm's length. There was no lights aboard the slave ship, little food, and no toilet facilities. Ultimately, niggas should burn down the slave ship. This is what was said in 2010. The violence of the middle passions in the slave state, technology of accumulation and fungibility, recompose and reenact the horrors of each succeeding generation of blacks. The violence is both gratuitous in that it's not continual and transgression against the hegemony of civil society, and structural in that positions black ontologically outside of humanity and civil society. Simultaneously, it renders the ontological status of humanity and life itself wholly dependent on civil society's repetition and compulsion, the frenzy and fragmented mechanism for which civil society acts gratuitous violence upon the black. That civil society must know itself as the domain of humans generation after generation. We need a new language of abstraction to explain this horror. The explanatory power of human discourse is bankrupt in the face of black. It's inadequate, innocent truths about parasitic on the unsolvable questions, but the dead but sentient thing, the black struggles to articulate in a world of living subjects. Shores of Africa filled with streams, those not weaned from mother's milk. Small bundles holding mother's limb, push and shove. Chained children in no passage, will you only know pain? Your growth aborted. No warmth, only damp, cold rank, surrounding air of death. What is given in answer to your cry? The lashes of pain, the comfort of denial, the breath of death. Chill cold wave covers the soul and escapes. No chain will bind your heart. Here are children carried from Africa's shores, weeping in the winds of time. This is Yancey in 2011. The no passage of voyage, death, bodily objectification, humiliation, dehumanization, geographical and psychological dislocation is a process of cultural disruption with both a profound sense of religious, aesthetic, linguistic, theological, cosmological disorientation. In the new world, we were sold from auction blocks. The black body itself became a blood and flesh text on which whites could project all their fears, desires, resentment, fantasies, myths, and lies. The black body itself was what the scientific discursive space of whiteness embodied racist epistemology, which constructed as a mere object of white racist gaze. The black body itself was subject to attacks what philosopher Michel Foucault termed atomopolitics. Those disciplines that operate on the body, regulating and subjecting the black bodies to derive themselves to racist theorizations. Scientific theories of racial superiority located in social behavior differences between members of the human species and genetic factors became the basis of study of black slaves. Through powerful structuration of white gaze, the black body itself is codified and typified as subhuman, attributes devoid of culture. I'm a nigga, not a colored man, or black, or a Negro, or an Afro-American, I'm all that. Yes, I was born in America, true, but South Central look like America to you? I'm a nigga, straight up nigga from a hard school. I'm a nigga in America, not much I flaunt, because when I see what I like, you ought to take what I want. I'm not the only one, that's why I'm not bitter, because everybody's a nigga to a nigga. This is Wilson, 2010. I began to see how essential and unflinching paradigmatic analysis is a movement dedicated for the complete overthrow of the existing order. The neoliberal compromises of the radical elements of the Chartist movement made in the modern elements were due in part on our inability and unwillingness to hold modern speech to a fire of political agenda, predicated on unflinching paradigmatic analysis. We allowed our energies and importance and attention to be displaced onto pragmatic consideration, and when we advocate the power to pose a question, and the power to pose a question is the greatest power of all. Alright.
I have a question. So, what do you? So, explain to me what we should do about the destruction of the ontologies of Africans.
We should.
Well, we shouldn't do anything about it. Our argument is that niggas should burn down the slave ship.
Okay. So, when you say burn down the slave ship, what does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, as our Wilson or Yancey evidence articulates, is that the ontology of the African is stolen from you, right? The slave ship is what literally structures the ontology of civil society.
It also structures the way in which we epistemology look and value bodies. So that second piece of Yancey evidence talks about the ways in which the black body became a site for all the sort of myths, lies, aggressions, and resentments of white bodies is something that we need to actively resist against. And by our presence of being niggas, that is a resistance to all those dominant interpretations.
Okay, you said it's like literally like what stole the ontology. So
No, it wasn't stolen. Like, it was literally removed from our bodies.
So what does do you literally burn down or advocate that they should burn down the slave ships?
I mean, y'all are watching the burning happening right now.
Okay,
Niggas are burning this shit right now.
Okay,
They're burning shit across the room right here.
Yeah, I guess, why should Joe sign his ballot at the end of this round?
To watch niggas burn this shit down.
Okay, I guess, why?
Because that's what the top. That's what.
I mean, like, it actually has more to do with
Can you
like.
sum, I mean, like,
No, I'm gonna sum it up for you real quick. Like for example, you don't see a lot of black people here.
okay.
Right? This is not a space that's been conducive to black people. Like so, our presence here, the arguments that we present, the type of epistemology that we provide for the debate round, is all a process of burning.
What is that epistemology?
The epistemology of a nigga.
Okay,
One that's
can you share
educated,
what
yeah,
is that?
the
Okay.
stuff that the verse that I did before the unflinching paradigmatic analysis card speaks of that in the way in which a nigga is someone that's antagonistic, someone that's ready to fight, someone that's ready to disrupt dominant sort of moral frameworks in order to get that hustle, to get what
Like
they know.
their very presence disrupts the moral framework because the way in which the slave ship structured what it meant to be human, the nigger like actually like showing some type of autonomy outside of being a slave and an object, show like that autonomy, you know what I'm saying, and to like pretty much challenges the whole way the slave ship shaped our ontology. So like just this instance of the way in which they shaped black bodies to be only objects, and now these bodies are resistant or active resistant forms, is a burning down of the slave ship.
What if we
Yeah, I started.
turn the lights off? I'm gonna show a video, so just in line.